Thank you all for joining today's webinar on AWS hiring trends shaping the banking and finance industry. Hope that everyone on the call today finds some of the information useful in headcount and budget planning for 2021, as well as retaining your current cloud staff. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat box. I'd like to start by giving a brief introduction to today's speakers. First up is Anna Whitehand. Anna is AVP for our FinTech division. She brings 6.5 years of recruitment experience, and 3 of those years have been dedicated to managing and leading cloud initiatives for us. FinTech is our market disruptor for the banking and financial services industry, working with companies who have built SaaS-based platforms across payments and lending, crypto, blockchain, and digital banking. Next up is Will Leslie. Will's AVP for our banking team. He has over 5.5 years of recruitment experience and spent the last year dedicated to cloud. Our banking team focuses on delivery to corporate, investment, and retail banks. Our fastest growing market within banking as credit unions, which AWS has a dedicated sales team for. Next is Colin Graves. Colin's a fully certified AWS professional and founder of North Labs, a veteran-owned AWS advanced tier partner focused on DevOps, automation, and end-to-end data engineering solutions, and specializes in highly regulated industries, including finance, and has built a team of over 80 AWS cloud professionals. Lastly, myself, I'm John Panessa. I personally bring 9 years of recruitment experience, with a total of 5 of those dedicated to cloud recruitment. I lead our efforts for investment management and insurance, with oversight to the entire banking and financial services teams. Our investment management team services hedge funds, private equity firms, asset management firms, trading firms, and intermediaries. Our insurance teams partner with primary, excess, and reinsurance companies that provide policies for home and property, life, fire, and auto. Now I'd like to review today's agenda. I'll start by giving you a brief introduction into Jefferson Frank, then Will Leslie and Anna Whitehand jump straight into the Jefferson Frank Salary Survey for 2021, where you'll learn some really interesting stuff on AWS recruitment trends as it relates to the banking and financial services industry. We'll finish it off with a Q&A session where we'll be able to answer any questions that you might have. So again, if you have any questions, feel free to drop those in the chat box and we'll run through them together at the end of this webinar. A quick introduction to Jefferson Frank. We're the largest AWS specialist staffing business globally. We launched in 2018 to address the amazing demand for AWS professionals as the platform continued to grow at an incredible rate. We have over 300 consultants spread across 18 offices around the world, those in the United States, offering a complete network from East Coast to West Coast. We have 9 US hubs and have placed over 1,600 candidates globally to date, with organizations of vastly different sizes, from SMEs to enterprise customers. We also have the world's largest database of AWS, meaning we have more access to talent than anyone else. We work with organizations worldwide to find and deliver the best AWS certified professionals on the planet, with teams specializing in DevOps, big data and BI, IaaS, PaaS, and security. We recently achieved AWS Advanced Technology Partner status, and we're the only recruitment firm awarded that status, something we're incredibly proud of. In other words, we're perfectly positioned to advise on the AWS job market. Next, I'd like to introduce Colin Graves to tell you a little bit about North Labs. Colin?
Yeah, thanks, John. Yeah, so North Labs, like you mentioned, we're a veteran-owned AWS partner. We're dedicated to AWS, so we don't work with the other clouds. We try and bring that Navy SEALs approach to AWS, but we're helping organizations in regulated industries move to the cloud. We're planning from a workload migration perspective, cost of ownership, and the economics behind the move to cloud, as well as the modernization pieces, right? What happens when you're there? How do you get your internal teams proficient in what you're doing on the cloud, as well as some pretty heavy-handed data engineering initiatives within the banking, the finance, healthcare, and other regulated industries. I've personally been in the AWS realm for 13 years, and it's been quite the journey to see it evolve into obviously what it is today. And happy to contribute to this webinar however we can. We obviously love working with Jefferson Frank, and have no plans of slowing down in 2021.
Hi, everybody. This is Will. Wanted to just jump in and give you a bit of background on what actually the salary survey is before we get into the nuts and bolts of this webinar. For me, the term salary survey is actually a bit of a misnomer because the report is actually just an incredibly unique, very, very comprehensive market snapshot with sort of over 62,000 data points. So yes, whilst we do also collect salary information, which can hopefully be useful for you to benchmark against your teams and obviously in your own careers, we do also ask candidates about what's important to them in terms of culture, learning and development, and diversity, as well as obviously the response they've seen, particularly this year, to COVID, with the aim of giving you, the employer, a comprehensive insight into what is really important when it comes to staff satisfaction, staff productivity, retention, and attraction. So to set the scene as to why staff retention and attraction is so important, during a global recession and pandemic, we've still seen over 13,000 advertised cloud jobs on just one job board, dice.com. And studies are showing us that nearly a third of those won't be filled for nearly 2.5 years, by which time we know they'll probably already be obsolete, such as the pace of change in this market. Lack of quality staff really is the biggest disruptor we've seen for CIOs and hiring managers in terms of achieving their 2021 roadmap goals for cloud implementations, enhancements, etc. I think it would be interesting to get Colin's thoughts on this. Colin, what are some of the main challenges you faced over the last 18 months or so when it comes to attracting and bringing in new staff?
Well, it's sort of twofold, right? One, like you mentioned, Will, is just purely the shortage of talent. There's there's an overwhelming number of job openings out there and a very limited number of candidates, and so we're seeing this unique challenge in how you attract folks from the outside from a placement perspective, but also make sure that you're training your internal folks, right, once they're there, to not only keep them happy but to keep them evolving within the function they're playing. Secondly, also, is the technology itself is moving so fast. So even as we get more and more folks spun up on the cloud and experienced with, what a cloud native philosophy entails, the cloud in and of itself is so broad and so deep and moves so fast that it really is difficult to keep your thumb on things from a change perspective. Best practices from 5 years ago are no longer best practices today because we have a better understanding of what it means to build natively in the cloud. And so those are the two, it's sort of the two sides of the sword, as it were. It's change in and of itself from a personnel perspective as well as the technology itself.
Yeah, absolutely agree with you there, Colin. I think the good news for all of us, right, is that we are operating in exactly the right field, in exactly the right marketplace. 72% of the AWS Partner Ecosystem expects to see their work increase next year, which means more implementations, more enhancements, more deployments than ever before. And 60% of the market is very, very happy in their current role as well. As a proportion of the market, that's actually relatively high compared to other technologies, which is, again, really, really good news for the ecosystem as a whole. However, what that does mean for you on an individual hiring manager level is that with more and more demand for candidates as more customers enter the ecosystem, and with the majority of the market happy, when it comes to your attraction strategy, the pull factors that you offer need to be on point because there are far less push factors right now in the marketplace. The great news, obviously, is that not all pull factors require financial outlay. With such a high proportion of the market valuing certifications, for example, as you can see, the middle point, this is something that we're going to really dive into a bit more detail on. And it's something that can be a really core tool for you to make the most of this process to keep your people happy, engaged, and most importantly, working for you. However, before diving into certifications, I do just want to touch on the remote working piece. I mean, obviously, it's become a huge part of our lives. It's time to obviously start thinking about what your intentions are post-COVID, though, with obviously the fantastic news we've got recently regarding vaccinations. Clearly, remote working does have limitations in terms of culture, employee well-being, particularly mentally. And these are things that you have to consider when it comes to the quote unquote new normal, obviously to ensure continued employee sort of welfare, engagement, etc. But from purely a recruitment perspective, remote flex has huge positives. If someone can work for you mostly remotely, then you can cast your net out significantly further than before to find the talent that you need. Obviously, that could be a nationwide level, but for instance, we've even seen a big increase in candidate pools because the distance someone's willing to commute if they only have to do it once or twice a week is so much further. Whatever your plan to have at least some remote for 2021. If this year has proven anything, it's that remote work is possible for everyone. It is now expected, and trust me, your competitors will be offering some remote flex. Colin, I know that you've got a predominantly remote workforce. What advantages has that brought you as an employer and a hiring manager?
Yeah, we've been fairly remote from day one, but COVID's just really cemented the fact for us that the best talent doesn't necessarily exist in the hubs in which we operate an office, right? Our most talented engineers aren't necessarily in Chicago or Austin. We have brilliant engineers in upstate New York and Tulsa, Oklahoma, where we, really never would have thought to set up an office. And so I think the important thing for the viewers of this webinar is to consider that from my perspective anyway, the very best and brightest talent are insisting on working remotely at, perhaps full time. And they're holding out for that because they know that employers will meet them there. So I think it's important as a consideration for the people tuning in that, remote working is definitely here to stay. And as you talk about these ultra talented cloud professionals, they really enjoy remote working. And I don't see that changing.
Yeah, completely agree with you. So as we've seen, obviously 62% of the market is currently satisfied with their roles, but there's still a decent proportion of people with some areas of dissatisfaction or some areas of sort of neutrality. And there are a number of really actionable things that you can do to reduce the churn in your headcount. Obviously, career progression, training and development, culture. These are all things that you can directly control as a hiring manager and have a pretty significant impact on employee satisfaction. For example, your employees might feel indifferent because they can't see any room for career progression, or because they feel like they've been stuck in the same rut of tasks for some time. So supporting a learning and development plan or sitting down with them to outline a career progression plan is a really relatively easy way of improving employee satisfaction. And it's a really excellent opportunity for you to motivate your employees, help them further develop their skills, increase their knowledge, and in turn, see their careers progress with your company. So as we've already seen, money isn't everything, and we are aware, pardon me, that in some cases the salaries that you pay your employees is out of your control. Obviously, salary bandings, etc. The fact is as well that 50% of the market aren't happy with their pay, but there is overall satisfaction over 60%, which shows us that those other factors do hold more weight. Regardless, obviously, we know everybody has bills to pay. Money is very, very important. And one thing that's not mentioned on this slide here, but is mentioned actually in the salary survey document, is that out of all the candidates that moved jobs last year, they got an average raise of about 22%. It's obviously a very significant raise just from having moved jobs. So what are you doing to protect your existing staff and reward their loyalty so that they aren't falling behind that curve? Something really important to think about, because obviously after a couple of moves, you could see some of your employees seeing former colleagues really outstripping them in salary. One of the best ways to benchmark salaries for your team is obviously to use the data in the back of the salary survey to see if you're competitive versus your peers. So one of the things I've kept alluding to throughout this presentation, certifications, they are absolutely essential to you to ensure both current and future employees have the right knowledge to compete in, as Colin alluded to, one of the fastest evolving technology industries out there at the moment. It is not only beneficial for the employees, it obviously has long-term benefits for you as well, upskilling through certifications, keeping people current. We saw on slide 12, training and development opportunities rank lowest when it comes to job satisfaction. So it's pretty much your number one area to be looking at in terms of making the biggest difference to staff retention and attraction. In our salary survey, we asked AWS professionals what training and development they're lacking and what they'd like more of. And obviously there was a wide range of training, from some of the more specific technical training, particularly the SA Pro or the DevOps Pro certifications, but also strategic and leadership training. They want to be able to sort of develop those potentially what we'd call quote unquote softer skills. One of the big things that came up throughout this salary survey, though, is that they really do want to have time during work hours that are dedicated to learning and development opportunities. So it's not something that they have to continue to do off their own back as well. Which is something I know that you're quite a big proponent of as well, Colin, in terms of helping to upskill the team, correct?
Well, that's I think one of the most important parts about, once you have an AWS team, how are you ensuring that they're growing within the business so they can provide more value to the business, but also growing within their role, right? People want to feel a sense of progression as they stick around at an organization. So something that I recommend everybody do is, find whether it's working with an AWS partner or, using the internet or something like that, but putting together a roadmap from a certification standpoint for each function within your business, right? Your DevOps team is going to care about different things than your software engineering team, but you can put together that roadmap for them to have something to measure themselves against from an ongoing training perspective. It helps point them in the right direction, right? Because where we're at today is these AWS professionals are expected to build value within the organization. They're expected to do their own training, but they're also expected to be implementing, process and programs for the first time in company history. So they've got a lot of weight on their shoulders. And I think that, being able to give them something to measure their progress against from a training and certification perspective helps remove a lot of that friction from an ongoing career progression perspective, which, in my experience really does a lot to enhance the positive view that an AWS professional holds of the business and of their role.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, even at its core, it just simply makes them feel a bit more valued, right? The fact that you're taking time to even go through this with them. So what's holding people back when it comes to getting certifications? Well, a lot of the time, candidly, it is actually that person's manager. So the people potentially we've got on this call. So time commitment, lack of support, opportunity cost of study time versus work time, or employers thinking it's not necessary for the role are some of the biggest reasons that people don't pursue certifications. Certifications don't only benefit your employees. We mentioned it before, but it improves your company's productivity and efficiency. It helps with long-term cost reduction because not only does it keep employees satisfied, but they're actually better at the job. And obviously, if they continue to feel valued, as Colin alluded to, it means that we're not continually in this cycle of trying to hire people, which obviously reduces costs, reduces disruption to the business as well, and helps bring in new skill sets to the organization that you can truly exploit and realize the potential of what's obviously a fantastic cloud platform. I think one of the easiest ways to make yourself more attractive to prospective staff and to support your current employees is by contributing not only to certification costs, but creating time to study alongside their work commitments. I think keeping up with the competition when it comes to certification is going to be truly important for you in sort of staff attraction and retention when it comes to 2021 and beyond.
Thank you, Will. So let's talk about work perks. Work benefits have gone through big changes this year from the pandemic. Perks that were high on the list are now being offered as a standard, like working from home and flexible hours. Casual dress has become completely redundant. On top of this, many companies have had to make budget cuts this year due to the economic shutdown as a result from COVID. This has caused companies to have to cut back on perks they offered employees except remote working, which has grown. So even if your budget has decreased, there are still different perks that you can offer, like gift cards, food delivery discounts, or shortened hours that can go a long way. Since working from home has increased at 71%, many employees are not able to separate home and work-life balance and feel like they have to work harder than ever, not shutting off their laptops. Mental health has been a huge topic of conversation, and many are looking at it now being the employer's responsibility to empower and encourage a healthy work-life balance. One of the many things we're doing here at Jefferson Frank to support mental health is on Wednesdays encouraging our employees to log off early and do something for their mental health, like watch a Netflix show or a workout. When the dust settles and we're back to our new normal, companies need to know what employees are expecting, and depending on how it looks in 2021, make a change to the perks being offered. Keeping staff happy is one thing, but it's also important to look at the benefits to attract the best AWS professionals. Here are some of the top attractions to get candidates over the line. A salary bonus topped our list at 47%, and a 13th-month bonus at 19%. You can offer your employees a variety of bonus structures, but all aim to motivate and reward staff for hard work, increased productivity, and good performance. Not all bonuses have to be cash. You can also motivate employees with gift cards, tech items like laptops, and paid time off. Even encouraging employees to log off early on a Friday after a great week can go a long way. The workplace has changed heavily since COVID as well. 2 of the top 10 perks, remote working and flexible hours, are now standards for many employers and will be offered when we reach that new normal. I don't think many of us will be returning to a 9-to-5 office environment. So it's not unheard of for candidates to be in a scenario to receive multiple offers. And when just trying to decide between the two, remote can be a huge deciding factor. Even just last week, I had a candidate receive 2 offers, one with a higher salary and one with remote flexibility. The candidate felt the obvious choice for him was flexibility because it made more sense for him and his family. So again, when it comes to attracting talent in your organization, this year is going to require a combination of creativity and flexibility when it comes to your benefit package. So we've talked about what attracts and retains the best talent, but ultimately we also need to understand why people are leaving. 35% of AWS professionals told us they expected they'll leave their employer in the coming year, with a further 17% being unsure whether they'll stay or go. By understanding why they are leaving, it will help you lower your turnover to save money and time going through the tough hiring market we've mentioned, and create a better culture where staff can thrive and be more productive. Most of the results show some common trends. They want to improve and develop. They want take their career to the next level, experience exciting challenges, and be exposed to the latest and greatest AWS products. Money's on there, but it's not the only reason. There's not one size fit all solution that will work, but it's important there's visibility to your employees and they are rewarded for their hard work. Colin, have you seen anything where organizations have been able to operate in a sandbox environment or work with the latest AWS products?
Yeah, I have. What's interesting to me here is even though 62% of professionals say they're satisfied with their current role, 52% of them are at the very least on the fence about leaving their current employer or expecting to. And I think a lot of that comes back to that progression within their role that we talked about earlier. So if you think about that lack of exposure to AWS products, that's people wanting to sort of push the limits of their knowledge. And the beauty of the cloud now is you have the ability to spin up these environments that engineers, architects can play around in without creating any risk for the organization. And actually, what it does is I think it goes beyond just playing with new products from AWS. It checks the box for the needing new challenges, like 52% of respondents said, the underutilization, even the lack of leadership and vision, allowing people to build out new solutions or new experiments within an AWS sandbox account allows them to sort of scratch that itch from an internal progression perspective, which I think will really enhance longevity. So AWS also gives credits for sandbox experimentation, so you don't have to carry that cost of the AWS resources yourself. They'll actually give you credits to offset that, which obviously further enables your organization to to experiment within AWS and really hopefully come to arrive at an even greater future for your organization.
Thanks, Colin. So due to the constant changes and demographic shifts, it's necessary to have a diverse workplace, not just to implement a policy. Diversity and inclusion should be put into practice with everything your company does. There's a clear benefit for a company and its workforce regarding adopting effective diversity and inclusion policies. There's wider talent pools to recruit from, an increased likelihood of retaining personnel from diverse backgrounds, and a greater creativity and innovation to draw from a mix of different people. Different backgrounds, experiences, and approaches don't just help you tackle problems, they can help recognize what your customer truly wants and needs. Diversity and inclusion policies should be in the business strategy and visible and communicated across the business. 26% of our respondents are not sure their organization has a policy in place. These companies could have one, it's just not visible to the staff. What a company should offer is education for employees and a visible commitment from the top down to ensure your workforce feels appropriately represented. Great, so I'd like to go through the 3 main takeaways from this presentation. First, remote working and flexible hours has been a hot topic in recruitment world for years now, and this year's events have made it even more so. It's important to look at your strategy and make sure that you're including a remote workforce in your plans for 2021. Secondly, we've mentioned the importance of training and development for your teams. Investing in your team's growth will pay off. We've seen that AWS professionals are hungry for knowledge, they want to get their hands dirty, and they're very invested in their jobs. They want exposure to the latest AWS products, and they care about the direction their career is heading. Sounds like the perfect employee, but make sure you're providing an environment where they can continue and flourish within your business over your competitors. Finally, we've discussed hiring from diverse talent pools. Diversity among your team can improve the work culture and your offering. This year has taught us a lot about how our work and personal lives can coexist in more harmony. Offering flexibility to accommodate that will put you in a strong position to attract candidates who simply aren't applying for roles with your competitors right now.
Awesome. Thanks, Anna. I think there's a lot of really great and useful information. What I want to do now is take a moment and review how some of the insights that we've learned today relate to the finance industry. So first, cloud adoption is increasing within the banking and financial services sector, but cloud readiness is behind the curve. And what it's leading to is a war on hiring for cloud professionals. So very competitive market. Many companies have opened their requirements to allow for 100% remote-based employees to attract really top-tier cloud talent. The traditional method of 5 to 6 interviews spanning 4 to 5 weeks for firms in the banking and financial services space is leading to customers losing out on the best cloud talent, particularly smaller organizations and fintech firms that have developed a shorter, more effective interview process are gaining the competitive advantage and improving the overall candidate experience. We're seeing an increased demand within credit unions for cloud professionals, so much so that AWS has developed a dedicated sales team to that particular niche. The smaller firms have the ability to hire quickly, which ties back into my last point about creating a competitive advantage for the candidate experience during the interview process. We've seen an apprehension for candidates to make a career change during the uncertainty of COVID, which means developing the best candidate attraction strategy is all the more crucial. So some key takeaways here to keep in mind for planning for 2021, if you're looking to hire for cloud professionals. Number one, most companies are mapping and planning for budget and headcount 2021. Come January, there's going to be an increased competition for hiring top-tier cloud talent. Getting a head start on the interview process now help land you the best candidates before the new year. Number two, many projects were put on hold during COVID, which has led to a huge backlog of cloud up to kick off in 2021. Number three, diversity and inclusion initiatives are becoming increasingly critical to help establish a collaborative culture. Number four, with a huge uptick in 100% workforce, we're seeing the need for customers to plan appropriately for things like IT systems, understanding the tax implications to allow for remote workers in different states, and creating and maintaining a collaborative culture to keep those employees engaged while working from home. Colin, what's your plan look like for 2021 in terms of hiring?
Yeah, obviously, we're right in the mix of looking for that top tier talent, expanding our workforce via remote talent is going to continue to stay at the top of the list. But what it's going to go back to is internal progress, right? So making sure that our internal talent is aware of the steps they can take to grow within their role. And we plan to reward them financially, right? As certifications are pursued and unlocked, that comes with a little bump in pay, right? It's that sort of pat on the back for having gone through that initiative. And I think companies would be wise to meet their candidates with the certification process and begin calling that out in their hiring initiatives, because at the very least, right, it's a good barometric reading of talent to say, Anna has demonstrated cloud competency within the last 3-year period, which is how long AWS certifications last. So we're going to continue to place emphasis on that. We have since day one, and we like helping other organizations sort of bake that into their ongoing training initiatives as well. But those are the main things, right? Certifications and continuing to expand your workforce from a remote perspective. I think that's what we need to do, and I think that's really what the market is going to have to do as well.
Yeah, absolutely agree with you. I think certifications are absolutely critical. Allowing for your individuals to work remotely from home when you're looking at your interview process is definitely going to get you the best cloud professionals. And retention is absolutely critical as well, right? It's a huge time saver and cost saver for you if you can keep the people that you currently have on staff happy. Great. So now's your opportunity to log onto our website and download your free copy of this year's Jefferson Frank Salary Survey. We hope you found some of this information useful, and we'll happily take any questions that you might have now.
Thank you to Colin, first of all, for jumping on, helping us with this salary survey and the presentation, and amazing insight into his business. And a big thank you to John, Anna, and Will for all the hard work which has gone into the presentation and the salary survey. So guys, there are no questions in the webinar chat, but I will open up the floor if anybody has any questions which they would like to ask Colin or the speakers from Jefferson Frank. Okay, it doesn't seem like there are a huge amount of questions. We do have some questions which actually came in ahead of the presentation. So I will go out and read them out and pick a speaker to answer them. Please jump in if you have any further comments around it. So I'll give this one to Will Leslie. Will, what do you expect the new normal to look like when it comes to hiring AWS professionals?
Thanks, Michael. Yeah, I think, to be honest, the answer to that question is probably what I alluded to at the sort of my early section of my part of the presentation, is that the remote working factor is obviously a pretty obvious one. Whether people stay fully remote, I think, is going to be up for debate, but definitely the flexibility there is going to be expected. Obviously, you've demonstrated that you can do it now, or your competitors are going to be doing it. And it'll be interesting to see as well whether that helps sort of reset maybe the demographics of the industry as well. It's something that we've sort of discussed ourselves internally here, is that as people get more flex to work from home, do we see a shift in the demographics? Do we see a shift in maybe diversity across the industry, as people who traditionally maybe been boxed out of some of these roles are now able to participate? Obviously, especially with this sort of skills crisis that we've seen and employers potentially being more flexible, I think that is what our new normal, quote unquote, will look like.
Brilliant. Thanks, Will. Great input. Another question which we had was, you've mentioned that we need to get creative with the benefits and perks we offer to our employees post COVID-19. What benefits do you think employers need to provide now? So I will pass that one to Anna Whitehand.
Thanks, Michael. So I think we covered it heavily within the presentation as well, but in 2020, we've changed it in many ways. And employers now have benefits and look at benefits a lot differently. For instance, remote working was normally a perk, but now it's offered pretty regularly, and a lot of businesses are moving in that direction as a standard. And different things that used to be important, like gym memberships or generous vacation policies, aren't as attractive to candidates just because we've changed in the way that we work now. A lot of cool things that are happening is reduced price in memberships to on-demand streaming accounts like Netflix and Hulu's. Subscriptions to online fitness classes are being offered. Discounts on shopping subscriptions or online food services can be different perks that are offered for employees that will go a long way. Another thing you might want to rethink and look at is your healthcare plan. The pandemic has raised the importance of health in people's mind, so a further investment into a strong healthcare plan for your employees definitely can go a long way and will be more important than ever.
Thanks, Anna. And the last question which I'll pick out, which was forwarded to us, I will send to John Panessa. So John, the question gave to us is, my business is considering implementing AWS. So I was interested in this webinar, but this feels like hiring could be a nightmare. Realistically, what am I going to need to implement AWS for my business?
I think that's really difficult to say without understanding kind of the size of your organization, the complexity of the project that you have going on, and I'm happy to connect with anyone directly and kind of give you some advice on it after the presentation. I do think one thing to take into consideration though is at what we do see a lot is you have a strong staff of IT professionals internally, and it can be very easy to take the individuals that you currently have on staff and cross-train them on AWS and kind of get them upskilled from an AWS perspective to reduce some of that stress. So that's one way to look at it. Another way maybe to look at hiring some contractors to come in and help you out on an hourly basis, short-term gig, 3 months, 6 months, 9 months. Again, I think that can be a conversation we can take offline. There's a lot of different options that we can provide to help make that kind of daunting task that it may feel like hiring AWS professionals. We make it easier for you, right? And that's through the services that we provide with recruiting for top-tier AWS professionals, right? We've got a database of 80,000 AWS professionals here, so we can definitely help with that.
Brilliant. Thanks, John. Right, guys, that is all from us. Unless anybody had some questions which came up or any further thoughts. No. Okay. Thank you again, everybody, for joining. Thank you to the speakers. We will circulate the salary guide again afterwards, and we look forward to speaking to you very soon.